Hello, my name is Tanya Makar. I am a school-based occupational therapist and also a student in the post-professional doctoral program at the University of Montana. And today I'm presenting my capstone project, which was titled Using the Kawa Model to Increase Paraprofessional Understanding of Self-Regulation and Co-Regulation Strategies when Working with Special Education Students. And my capstone was inspired by a capstone that I heard about back in 2023 by Dr. Amy Crosby, listening to the OT Schoolhouse podcast. And she talked about that she had done a workshop as a school-based therapist, effectively implementing staff training to increase self-regulation skills for teachers using the Kawa model. And that really inspired me because what I'm seeing as a school-based occupational therapist is a mental health crisis in our school systems. And when I dug into the research, it really backed that up. Approximately a quarter of school-age children are experiencing mental health concerns such as anxiety and depression. And special educators are reporting very high rates of burnout, up to 60%, and mental illnesses such as anxiety and depression. Also, the number of special education teachers is going down, while the number of paraprofessionals is going up. And many paraprofessionals are now being asked to support students in the general education setting. And these paraprofessionals report a lack of training and knowledge for supporting students with emotional dysregulation. But research does show that co-regulation with caregivers, such as the paraprofessionals, is what builds the skills of self-regulation for students. So the purpose of my capstone project was to increase the paraprofessionals' knowledge of regulation strategies and their confidence in self-regulation so that they could then effectively co-regulate with the students experiencing emotional dysregulation, which would eventually lead to more regulated students. Additionally, they would increase their knowledge of how personal and environmental factors affect their ability to self-regulate and co-regulate with students. So my research question was, do special education paraprofessionals who participate in an occupational therapist-led workshop program focused on increasing self-regulation and ability to participate in co-regulation with students with emotional regulation difficulties through the application of the Kawa model, demonstrate increased knowledge and confidence in their ability to use strategies for self-regulation and co-regulation when those students are experiencing dysregulation? It was very important to me to use the Kawa model for this. It has been shown that using metaphors is a great way to teach complex ideas, and the Kawa model uses the metaphor of a river. So in the Kawa model, the water in the river represents the flow of life, and if the water is flowing freely and deeply, life is going well. But we also look at the banks of the river, and that represents the physical and social environment and also the context. The rocks in the river represent difficult circumstances that might impact the flow of the water. They could create rapids. And the driftwood represents personal resources that can be assets or liability. So for my workshop, I originally proposed that I would do a workshop for 10 paraprofessionals that I work closely with. But when I proposed this to the special education coordinator, he wanted me to present to a much larger group. So we ended up with 62 special education paraprofessionals, and I was able to split them into two groups for two 3-hour workshops. About little less than half work in 6th grade through high school, and a little more than half work through pre-K through 5th grade. 49% had less than 5 years of experience, and 86% reported working daily with students with behavioral or emotional difficulties. So to prepare for the workshop, I had 4 paraprofessionals complete a needs assessment, and they indicated a high interest in learning more about self-regulation and co-regulation, and also a lack of previous training in those topics. I created a pre-workshop and a post-workshop survey to assess knowledge and confidence regarding self-regulation and co-regulation. And then I created 4 handouts. One was a fill-in-the-blank Kawa model that looks just like the one on my poster, but without the words so they could fill it in. One was a handout with self-regulation strategies. Another was a handout with co-regulation strategies. And then there was a handout with strategies for teaching children self-regulation. So for the workshop, the participants participated in interactive activities that included guided imagery, storytelling, and visuals to learn about the Kawa model. They then completed a Kawa model worksheet for themselves and a student anonymously. And then they participated in group discussions to select self-regulation and co-regulation activities from the handouts using anonymous examples that were provided by the group. And I noticed a couple of things during these discussions. One was they really resonated with the temporal aspect of the Kawa model. So in the Kawa model, downstream represents the future and upstream represents the past. And we had some really good discussions about how when pollution is put into a river, it doesn't stay where it enters the river. It goes into the water and it flows downstream. And we talked about how a lot of our students have trauma in their past and sometimes in their daily life and how that affects their river. And we talked about how even just a rough drop off at school in the morning can affect their ability to sit for circle time. We also talked about how we need to be looking downstream at what's coming in their day, their week, their year. Is there a fire drill that's going to be happening this afternoon? And what can we do to prepare for that? Or a test later this week? Or what goals are we working towards? So we just had some really good conversations. And I noticed that there was a lot of validation during these conversations. The paraprofessionals realized that they were not alone in experiencing the struggles of working with students with emotional dysregulation. And they just had some really great conversations and were able to support each other during those conversations. So let's look at the results. I had 41 participants complete the pre-workshop survey and 51 complete the post-workshop survey. I did ask everyone to do it, but not everyone did both. And during that survey, they rated their skills and knowledge using a Likert scale, where 1 indicated strongly disagree and 5 indicated strongly agree on 7 different areas. And those areas were that they could recognize early signs of dysregulation, that they could support teachers implementing routines, that they could maintain calm during student escalations, that they could use strategies to help students regulate, that they could identify environmental factors affecting their own self-regulation, and that they could identify personal factors affecting self-regulation, and that they understood co-regulation. So the results indicated that confidence and knowledge increased in all areas with a statistically significant change in 5 out of the 7 areas assessed using a Welch's 2-sample t-test. And the most increase was seen in their ability to understand co-regulation. Additionally, in response to a request for feedback on the workshop survey, where I just asked for general feedback, an overwhelming majority of the participants said they found the workshop helpful and they requested additional similar workshops, which was just really encouraging. So, in conclusion, these findings build on the work of Crosby, and they demonstrate that occupational therapists in the school setting can make a significant impact on the knowledge and skills of staff by conducting evidence-based professional development workshops. And I have links to my references and the handouts.